Hey students, these are your notes for lesson 9.3 on two-way tables. So two-way tables display two categories of data collected from the same source. Then we also have a term called joint frequency, which is just each entry in a two-way table. And then finally, we have marginal frequencies, which are the sums of the rows and columns in a two-way table. So for our first example, we're just reading a two-way table, and we have students and grades, and we see that some of our students studied and some didn't, and some of those students passed their test and some of them failed. So our first question is, how many students in the survey studied for the test and passed? So we want it to fall in this column and in this row. So that's 21 students. Then we want to see how many students did not study and failed. So that's the students that are in this column and this row. So that's 6 students. All right, in our next activity, our next example here, we are going to find marginal frequencies using the same two-way table. So remember, marginal frequencies are the sums. So how many students passed? So we want to see just how many are in this row, whether they studied or not. So that's 21 plus 2, so that's 23 students. Okay. For our next question, we want to see how many students failed. So we're looking at this row. And we don't care whether they studied or not. We're just adding up the total number of students who failed, which is 7. Okay, then how many students studied? So we're looking at this column. Regardless of whether they passed or failed, how many studied? That's 21 plus 1 is 22. How many students did not study? That's this column. 2 plus 6 is 8. And then last, how many students were surveyed? So we're going to either total up our 22 plus 8 to get 30 students, or we can add up our 23 plus 7, and either way we get this total of 30 students. All right, in our next example, we're going to make a two-way table. So it says we've randomly surveyed students between the ages of 12 and 17 about whether they ride the bus to school. So here we have ages in different categories, 12 to 13, 14 to 15, and 16 to 17. And we want to know how many ride the bus and how many do not ride the bus. So let's first focus on the ride bus group. So we count up 5, 10, 15, 24, 12 to 13-year-olds ride the bus. 5, 10, 12, 14 through 15-year-olds. And 5, 10 plus 4 is 14, 16 to 17-year-olds ride the bus. And then we have enough information that we can go ahead and find that marginal frequency. We'll add up 24 plus 12 plus 14 is 50 students that ride the bus. Okay, let me use another color here. For the does not ride bus group, we're going to count up our tally marks. For the 12 to 13-year-olds, there's 5, 10, 15, 16 that do not ride the bus. There are 5, 10 plus 3 is 13, 14 to 15-year-olds, and 5, 10, 15, 20 plus 1 is 21. So we can go ahead and add up this row as well to get a marginal frequency. 16 plus 13 plus 21 is also 50. And then we can go ahead and add up each of the columns as well. 24 plus 16 makes 40. 12 plus 13 makes 25. 14 plus 21 is 35. And if we add up either the 50 plus 50 or 40 plus 25 plus 35, we get a total of 100 students that were surveyed. All right, now in this next example, we're still looking at the two-way table that we just made in example 3. And we want to know what percent of the students in the survey ride the bus to school. So for the 12 to 13-year-olds, there were 24 12 to 13-year-olds who rode the bus out of 40 total 12 to 13-year-olds. So we need to do 24 divided by 40 to get that 60%. And then if we do 16 students did not ride the bus divided by 40, that's 40% that did not ride the bus. So that's for our 12 to 13-year-olds. For our 14 to 15-year-olds, we had 12 that rode the bus and 13 that did not. So 12 out of 25 is 48%, and 13 out of 25 is 52%. And last, we have our 16 to 17-year-olds. There were 14 that did ride the bus out of 35, that's 40%. And we had 21 that did not ride the bus out of 35, that is 60%. It says, explain what one of the entries represents. So let's take this one right here. And that says that 40% of 16 to 17-year-olds surveyed ride the bus. Okay, and we're asked, does the table show a relationship between age and whether students ride the bus to school? And I would say yes, it does, because as age increases, students are less likely to ride the bus. We see that for 12 to 13-year-old, more students ride the bus than don't. 14 to 15-year-olds, it's pretty much even. And 16 to 17-year-old, more students don't ride the bus. Maybe some of them are driving. Okay, for the on your own, you're going to go ahead and answer some questions about a two-way table and fill out your own two-way table for the second one. Good luck.